It looks like magic. Just got mini. Here's your look at the Diamond Select Dungeons & Dragons The Animated Series Minimates Set 1 Heroes. Enter the Dragons. Diamond Select Toys' first product from the Dungeons & Dragons comes to you from the animated world of the D&D cartoon series of the 1980s. This deluxe box set of 6 2-inch mini-mates includes the entire team of heroes. Bobby the Barbarian, Diana the Acrobat, Eric the Cavalier, Hank the Ranger, Presto the Magician, and Sheila the Thief. Plus get a tiny figurine of Uni the Unicorn. Each mini-mate figure features multiple points of articulation and character-specific accessories, and all parts are fully interchangeable. They come packaged in a full-color book-style window box with panel cover, designed and illustrated by Barry Bradfield. Well, they're all trying to find their way home, really. Perhaps that home is yours. Just before we get a closer look, though, at the Dungeons & Dragons Minimates Set 1 Heroes, I'd like, if I can, to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that provided a sample we could have a look at. Hey, by the way, good news. This set is either available online or some specialty stores will also stock Minimates. And really, for a set of 6, not bad at all. $50 or $49.99 to be exact. Speaking of exact, though, I'm not going to measure each and every one of them. They're all about roughly the same size. I'm going to measure only just Hank the Ranger. Each one of the Minimates are on average about 2 inches in height, or roughly about 5 centimeters tall. Reaching off to the side, I grabbed the characters' accessories. Though, to be fair, all the characters already started with accessories at the time that I was measuring them. No, that's not a riddle. Each one of them come include with their clear acrylic display stands that attach onto the underside of Minimates' feet. Minimates tend to always come included with these. Maybe perhaps like a long time ago when Minimates first were surfacing in comic stores. Maybe they didn't start with display stands, but they've been with stands ever since. The stand's just attached to, obviously you got a circular peg, a circular hole. You can put the two together. You literally have to put the two together to attach them onto the display stand. And once they're in display stands, it kind of does help to balance the Minimates so you don't really have to worry about the characters taking a tumble. Again, I've spent the time to obviously designate each of the accessories with the corresponding character. We'll start first with the accessory for Hank. Hank comes included, like in the cartoon, with his bow and arrow. The thing that's neat in the cartoon is that he has like this electricity arrow. And the thing that I like that Diamond did do as well is that they gave him sort of a makeshift electricity arrow. It's been done with using a translucent yellow plastic. It attaches, though, fairly easy, actually, onto the side of the bow. See, there's a circular clip. If I move my finger out of the way, you just take, of course, the bow. You just take the arrow and you put the two together. The first time I did this, it was a much more secure fit. Since then, though, every single time I've added this, it seems like the arrow is just a little bit more looser. It does, though, fit into his hands. All you have to really then do is you just take him off the display stand. You don't really have to take him off the display stand. I'm just taking off for right now. Take the bow, and we'll just clip it into his hands just right there. And then you don't even really have to get his hand to clip on the arrow necessarily. All you have to do is just slide the arrow in his hand, and he's holding both like that. Still, though, I mean, the more times that I'm doing it, the arrow has developed looseness. I'm sure I probably could maybe heat the clip just to bring it a little bit more closer together so it will hold the arrow just a little bit better. But that's Hank's accessories. We'll just take them off for right now. Really liking the look of Hank. Now, Hank is the Ranger. I was actually kind of surprised, and not to spoil everything right away, I was expecting really with the length of the hair on all of these characters that they would actually have printing on the back of their heads, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It's not the case, certainly for Hank, and as we get all the way down to the end with Bobby, none of them have back printing on the backs of their heads, which I guess isn't a bad thing necessarily, but I think they could have easily taken the opportunity, considering that the wigs cover over top of their faces anyways, could have put it printing on the back of the faces. Hank, though, here, as you can see, is wearing his green armor, dark green there on the sleeves, green on top. I guess this would be a tunic. Tunic does have some nice silver accents there on the front. The tops and the bottoms, as you can see, are a little bit more rigid. The ones that are in the middle, though, are just painted in place. They're not as silver, they're not as shiny as perhaps the tops and bottoms, but again, it looks good. I like the look of that quite a bit. Now, you can, with Minimates, you can mix and match the parts. I'm not going to really mix and match the parts here for Hank, nor am I really going to do it for the rest of the characters. But the idea is, obviously, they just really attach onto the ball joints. So you just take basically, like, well, if you want to take like the lower half of Hank, you can just, again, like mix and match them with the parts that you have. The articulation on all of these are going to be exactly the same. So Hank's articulation is going to be on a ball joint. So his head, first of all, rotates all the way around. Some of them are a little bit more restricted, like the top of his tunic. I mean, this is just a shoulder piece, essentially over top of the blocker frame for a Minimate. His arms come out only about that far. You can bring them forward. You can bring them back. It's a single hinge in the elbow, rotation in the wrist, rotation in the waist, legs split out. You can bring them forward only just a little bit. They also have a bend at the knee, articulation where you can rotate the lower leg or lower foot. And again, there's the peg holes on the undersides of the feet. I'm not going to cover really the articulation on every single one of them because it simply would just be the same articulation, rinsed and repeated by another 5 times. So there's Hank. Moving then our focus over to Presto. Presto was an interesting enough character in the cartoon. We'll just remove him from the display stand. The thing I really like about Presto is that he comes included with 2 variations of his hat. As he is right now, obviously he's not really wearing a hat at all. But what you can do, though, is you just take his wig off. And I keep calling these wigs because they're basically attached onto, well, if you wear a wig in life, there's nothing wrong with that. But basically, we just attach. I would hope yours doesn't attach by just a peg that you then dowel into a hole on the top of your head. Don't tell me if that's the case. What we will, though, do is we'll take his magic hat. We'll just plug it over top of his head. Honestly, though, I mean, he really has the most head different options. Again, if you want to display it without the hat, you can do it that way. If you want to display him with the hat, you could do that too. Or what you can also do as well is he does have a removable hat that already has magic. 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 Obviously, it wouldn't make any sense that he's going to have the magician hat and he's also going to have the magician hat in his hand. So then for that, you're going to want to probably beeline it back to having him wearing, of course, just the regular hairpiece. And then for this, if you look at the side of the hat, there's a little pinch right there. That pinch is perfect. Sorry for spitting on everybody. Pinch is perfect for fitting that into his hand. So it looks like he's got himself his hat and he's using some magic. Let's get him back onto his display stand. Oh, by the way, too, just before we get him onto the display stand, of course, he's got his long wizard's robe on there. It looks like be a little sash. What's that sash full of? Probably magic powder. Of course, if we spin this around to the back, you guys can see really nice paintwork there to the top. I like the coloring in this guy, too. The coloring is very similar, in fact. I mean, almost identical probably to the sleeves here for Hank. There's Presto, though. We can go ahead. Presto Magic. Presto, Presto Changeo? Presto Changeo. We already did the changing. We'll just put him back on his display stand. Moving now over to Diana, the Acrobats. I like the look of Diana. Let's go ahead and just remove her from the display stand. Again, like this one doesn't have any printing on the back of the face, but I do like the sculpting of the hair. The outfit as well, for what little we actually get of it, looks good too. Some nice gold they've added there. You got the gold on the bracelet on the inside of the arm. Some gold, and again, you've got the little raised lumps there, the raised circular pieces there on the front of her belt. And again, you've got some sculpting there down below for her furry boots. She does actually come included with her staff. The only thing I've noticed of all the accessories, she seems to have the hardest time to hold the staff. It's a pretty gummy kind of plastic. Instead of trying to fight to get this into her hand like this, which succeeded, honestly, I wasn't really expecting that to work as well. You could also just slide it in, slither it into her hand like that. You could do also the same on the other side there as well. And just clip it in place. I'm not really honestly sure why they didn't just use a harder plastic. I feel like harder plastic would have been the easiest method to go out with, but of course then you've got Diana there with her staff. Again, the articulation is going to be exactly the same on this, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. Again, you got ball joint in the head, ball joint shoulders, hinges in the elbows, swivels in the wrists, swivels in the waist, ball joint legs, knees, and of course you got the swivels in the feet. Go ahead and get Diana back onto her display stand. Just put her over here. Then we'll move our focus over to Eric the Cavalier. Eric does come included with his shield, and the shield, just putting down Eric here for a second, shield's been, I would imagine, probably been molded in gold plastic. I can't think that they probably would have spent as much time to cast this in a different color of plastic and then just having to paint the gold over top of it. But it does look good. You got the little crest there on the feature on the front. Of course, this does fit into his hands. And we'll just slide that in place. You can also as well, I mean, one of two ways. You can just slide it from the top. You can also just clip it in his hand. Either works fine. It doesn't come included with a sword or anything like that. But Eric does look good. We'll go ahead and just get him off the display stand. Sometimes, though, when you are removing these Minimates from their stands, their feet do pop out. I did notice, though, that Eric's feet, more out of everyone else, seems to be the loosest. I mean, it's just a case, obviously, you can see it's just pegs. There's a peg right there. It kind of looks almost like Mjolnir. But you have a peg, you have a hole, You guys know how that works by now. Some nice silver, though. I like the way they colored his boots. He's got some nice yellows, some blues, all the primary colors, really, and the red cape there as well. The cape is a harder plastic, so it's not going to have as much give to it. It may limit then a little bit of the articulation on the figure. More so, I feel, in his waist, not as much necessarily in his legs. But again, like Eric is a little loose in the knees. He is, though, especially loose, though, in his ankles. More on the one ankle than the other. This ankle's actually not that bad. Like the look of Eric, though. Let's go ahead and get him back onto his display stand. There is also, by the way, as I'm doing this, a second set of Dungeons & Dragons cartoon characters. That's all going to be the villains, and we're going to be looking at that in an upcoming review. Wait, did you just give away what will be coming up in an upcoming review? I may have. Moving our attention over to Sheila the Thief. She hasn't stolen, though, much. The only actually thing that she comes included with is a slightly more translucent purple version of her cloak. If you don't like the cloak that she necessarily has right now, it's just a case of swapping it out. We'll do that right now. She has always, I felt, like a little look like Daphne from Scooby-Doo. She also has these little freckles that she has on the front of her face. It's a really pretty looking portrait. She does also have, of course, the removable hair, because we're going to want to remove the hair to remove the cloak, and, of course, all the fun stuff that goes with that. I like the coloring of the pink. You've got a little sash there in the middle for a belt done in blue. I guess those would be thigh-high boots done nicely in brown. And, of course, the cape, similar to Eric, is actually a hard plastic. To do this, actually, all you're going to do is just take the head, wiggle this off the post like that, and then we're just going to take the back of the cape, because, of course, the cloak, the hood for the cloak, is actually folded back. So we're just going to take the cape off completely. I did have a bit of a struggle actually trying to remove it from the peg, just because the peg, as you can see, is a little bit bigger than the hole. Take that off. We'll also as well put the hair back on, put the head back on. We're going to leave the hair off because there's a reason why we're going to be doing that. Just snap that back in place. Then we're going to take the cloak, and instead of actually having to worry about getting the hair on or the head on afterwards, or trying to fit it in between, all you're really going to want to do is put the head on first to the body, and then the cloak with the hair already attached slides in conveniently in place. So now you got yourself a translucent purple cloak with, of course, the hood, and now you've got the hair. The hair isn't actually that much different from the hood that she has right now. The hair that she has right now. It's a little bit smaller, as you can see. She looks a little bit like also Lois from Family Guy. Nice looking details, though, on Sheila. Then we'll go ahead and just get her back onto her display stand. The character that we're going to be looking at next is my favorite, I would say, from the set. I would say Bobby, then probably Hank, then probably Presto. Hank, I suppose, is one of the Bobby, one of the included accessories that you would say would probably come with Bobby, would be that of Uni the Unicorn. Unlike, though, Bobby that we're about to have a look at, Uni doesn't actually have any posability at possession. You can't rotate the head, you can't rotate the tail. It's more of a staction piece. I was actually kind of really surprised to see that Uni, despite having small hooves and a very tiny footprint, Uni doesn't have any problems whatsoever standing. Because I was thinking initially, is this going to be a problem with the legs being so small that Uni's not going to be able to stand properly? And would I maybe have wanted to use a display stand? You don't really. The legs, though, are very close together on the back, a little wider on the front, but Uni actually stands fine. As you can see, we'll just put Uni right there. Bobby, though, comes included with his club. Club looks good. It's well painted, I think, for what it is. And, of course, it can plug into either one. Because they all have the C-clamp hands, holding accessories is never really an issue. We'll just take Bobby off the display stand, just put it off to the side. And Bobby, again, I feel like this would be one thing I really wish this set could have also had, is, again, like just swappable face plating. They've done that sometimes in the past with Minimates, where sometimes you got a different expression on the feature than on the front than it is to the back. I just feel like that's probably something they probably could have done, considering really, like Bobby and all those characters for that matter all have long hair. It would be so easy just to hide the alternate face expression. Anyways, though, Bobby does have, of course, his Viking helmet there. Again, nice detailing there on the front of his armor here. I suppose if overlooking the fact that this is a helmet, you probably could also use this as a fairly good stand-in He-Man Minimate. I don't even think Diamond Select, now that I think about it, has approached the Master Universe line, and even for that matter, Master Universe Minimates line. Who else would love to see? I'm already putting my hand up right now. How many people would love to see Master Universe Minimates? Yes, Diamond, make that happen. For the articulation, again, on this guy, it's going to be exactly the same. Again, you've got your ball joint in the head. You got ball joint shoulders. I know we've already covered this. Hinges in the elbows, swivel in the hands, swivel in the waist. Bobby's, though, actually, you know what? It's probably a good thing I did look at the posability for Bobby. Bobby's doesn't have the swiveling, and the reasoning for that is the top of the torso and the loincloth are all one piece that basically are overlays. If I just peel those away, you can see underneath the layers, a regular Minimate body would be greeting you underneath. But because he does have the armor that goes over top of it, that's probably one of the reasons why I want to look at the articulation of this guy. So he doesn't have it as much, though, in the swivel in his waist, simply just because, again, like this overlay goes over top of that. Still has the ball joint in the legs, still has the hinge in the knees, still has articulation in the feet where it counts. Go ahead and we'll get the club back into his hands. Yeah, you know what? I grew up with the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. Didn't maybe watch it as faithfully, perhaps, as some of the other Saturday morning cartoons, but I was a big still fan of the Dungeons & Dragons line. I like the idea that we finally get ourselves Minimates of the Dungeons & Dragons, at least the hero characters. Of the ones, at least, that we looked at in the set of 6, I would say Bobby's my favorite, then Hank, then Presto. Kind of like Sheila. I like Diana. I don't know. I don't really want to say that Eric would be my least favorite. And of course, there is also going to be this set of a second set that's also been released as well. That's going to have Venger. It's going to have like the Shadow Demon, War Duke, all that fun stuff. We're going to be looking at that in an upcoming review. But yeah, if you're a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons and you're a big fan of Minimates, it's a good happy marriage to have the two. And I think Diamond Select have done a great job on these. I'm always amazed with what Diamond's able to do with their Minimate line. When you consider that each one of these characters, all 6 of them at least, have the same Minimate body underneath their suits. Some of the suits are just a simple case like Bobby that they put an overlay over top of a regular Minimate body. Or if you look as extensively as what they did then with Hank, giving him a brand new tunic piece, underneath all that is still a Minimate body. And it's funny, though, that each one of these characters look like their cartoon counterparts, despite the fact, and continue to be the case, that Minimates never have noses. Each one of them also have cartoon-specific accessories. Bobby, that being probably the coolest accessory that he comes with, is Uni the Unicorn. I like the look of this set quite a bit. Now, there is also a set, too, that's going to include all the villains. So if you're a big fan, especially of the villains, like I'm a big fan of the villains from the Dungeons & Dragons line, Diamond Select did also release a second set of these as well, which we will be looking at thanks to the folks over at Diamond in an upcoming review. Good news, though, again, if you guys are interested and would like to get your hands on these, this is either available in comic specialty stores. I have seen a couple of, not necessarily this set, but I've seen some Minimate sets popping up at my local comic book stores, so they're there. They're out there in the wild. Or you can also order these online for around $49, about $50. And again, that's not bad for the fact that you get 6 Minimates. What do you guys think of this set? Let me know down below in the comments section. Of the 6 that we've looked at, what would you say is the best Minimate of the Dungeons & Dragons? Also, if you guys are interested and would like to stick around for the review of the Villains set, first of all, if you did enjoy this video, do it a solid, hit it a like. If you want to stick around for the review of the Villains Minimate box set, well then, hit the subscribe, turn on the bell, come back, please. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.